there was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, "Your people are insane." He said, "What's the matter with them?" He said, "Don't they understand this is an impossible situation?" Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said, "The thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees." The admiral said, "We have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down." He said, "We don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that." But he said, "Now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point." Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, "God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it." Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?" The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets spread clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here's my little man, Marcus. And he has a wonderful thing that he would like to sing for you called the National Anthem. We've recently been working on it for about a month now. He is 4 years old and very excited. Are you ready, buddy? Yeah. All right, let's do this.
Two, three. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight? Yes, gleaming, whose sparks striped in bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. In the rockets were clear, the bombs bursting in a gay proof the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors, that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the homes of the brave.
Very good job, Marcus. Poor little guy had hiccups. But he did a great job anyways. Well, we want to welcome you today and say thank you so much for coming out. We know that this is a bit of an adventure and something new that we're trying out, but we're so happy that you came and joined us today. We have a couple events and a couple of people that we would like to share with you today. They each have something absolutely wonderful to say about not only our country, but our state that we live in, the people that they impact each and every day. And we want to give them a few moments to go ahead and share their piece with us. The first person I'd like to introduce to you goes by the name of Pat DiPlasco. She, along with other people, are part of the Keep Pinellas Beautiful. Their goal and their journey is to get together volunteers and people who donate and sponsor and help out in order to fix the Pinellas counties and everywhere that we go. Yeah, that's... Miss Jones, she's right here. All right. All right, so take two. Let's try this again. All right, so today we're going to introduce Pat DePlasco. She is part of Keeping Pinellas Beautiful. Their goal is to get together volunteers, donations, sponsorships, and people to help out around the Tampa Bay area to help fix up local parks, streets, business corners, and anywhere to make Pinellas look even more beautiful. Thank you, Marcus. Since 1992, Keeping Pinellas Beautiful has meant a lot to our community. Volunteers through this 501 nonprofit organization strive every day with our local government, our businesses, our schools, our nonprofits, our neighborhoods, and of course the public and you to help keep Pinellas beautiful. So if you would, just give Pat a warm welcome, and she will share some more about what she does here in the Tampa Bay area.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I'll just put that in here. Ready? Okay. Good morning. My name is Pat DePlasco, and I'm the Executive Director with your local Keep America Beautiful affiliate, Keep Pinellas Beautiful. And I thank you for your kind invitation to introduce Keep Pinellas Beautiful to all of you and share how we can help you to create a cleaner, greener, healthier, safer, and more beautiful place to live, work, and play. Since 1992, Keep Pinellas Beautiful has been providing opportunities for meaningful service to Bay Area residents of all ages. As a volunteer-based 501c3 nonprofit community action education organization and certified affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, Keep Pinellas Beautiful forms partnerships with local governments, businesses, schools, nonprofits, and neighborhood organizations to turn public places into beautiful spaces. There we go. Keep Pinellas Beautiful is a grassroots environmental organization. We are part of a bigger picture. We are your Keep America Beautiful affiliate. As your Keep America Beautiful affiliate, it is our responsibility to engage individuals to take greater responsibility for improving the community's environment. For more than 6 decades, Keep America Beautiful has served as our country's nonprofit steward of litter prevention and has provided its affiliates with tried and true best practices and procedures to best accomplish community engagement and behavior change. Founded in 1950 as an ad campaign, actually 1952, it blossomed into a national organization with almost 1,000 affiliates nationwide, with the sole purpose of engaging people to keep America beautiful. There we go. Keep Pinellas Beautiful is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating and fostering a community of environmentally responsible citizens through education, engagement, and action. We address critical environmental issues to protect and preserve our natural environment within our Pinellas County region. Our 4 focus areas are litter prevention, waste reduction, conservation, beautification, and community greening. From Tampa Bay to the Gulf of Mexico, from Tarpon Springs to Fort DeSoto, Keep Pinellas Beautiful works with volunteers to foster unity and strengthen community bonds through improvement and behavior and beautification efforts across Pinellas County. Okay. Keep Pinellas Beautiful has identified 3 E's of sustainable community improvement. We educate, we engage, and we empower. These are the steps we take to create behavioral change within our communities. To produce a lasting impact, we encourage community members to take action every day to improve and beautify their surrounding environment. Education is the starting point for encouraging positive attitudes towards community preservation and improvement. Change and improvement begins with personal responsibility. We help individuals find ways to become involved through our programs and volunteer opportunities. Our ongoing education programs consist of educational presentations to all ages. The topics include waste in place, waste reduction, watershed education, and trash talk. We have specialty programs like our Youth Environmental Stewardship Summer Workshops and Science Festival, and we have service learning projects. We have cleanups, invasive species removal, gardening, and Florida-friendly landscaping. Cleaning up our public spaces, parks, neighborhoods, and shorelines is only part of the picture. People, we're all about people. People working with people for the betterment of our communities. Keep Pinellas Beautiful provides volunteer opportunities that develop individual stewardship and environmental responsibility. Through hands-on participation, we get people excited, inspiring environmental motivation, and developing a true sense of pride and ownership. People feel good about volunteering with us because they immediately see the difference that they are making in the health and appearance of their community. The signature event of Keep America Beautiful is the Great American Cleanup. This event is held annually the 3rd Saturday of March, and it involves approximately 3,000 individuals of all ages in high-impact events, which include removing litter and debris from roadside highways, shorelines, waterways for safer, cleaner communities, planting trees, flowers, and gardens to strengthen our community's green infrastructure, by cleaning and restoring natural trails, recreation areas, and playgrounds to encourage play and physical activity. We also partner with the Ocean Conservancy to coordinate the International Coastal Cleanup right here in Pinellas County, annually the 3rd Saturday of October. Again, this time including over 3,000, about 3,500 to 5,000 volunteers in cleanups and data collecting that is shared with the Ocean Conservancy, Keep America Beautiful, and Pinellas County. This international program engages people to remove trash from the world's beaches and waterways, and it identifies the sources of debris and helps change behaviors. Keep Pinellas Beautiful has been fine-tuning our beautification program to include planting trees. We're working to diversify the canopy of Pinellas County. We're also working on Florida-friendly landscaping gardens, urban landscaping gardens and urban fruit orchards, shorelines and mangrove plantings, floating islands and invasive plant removal, and more. Currently, we have gardens and landscaping projects at Tyrone Middle School, Ozona Elementary School, Eisenhower Elementary School, M.K. Rawlings Elementary School, the Broach School, Transfiguration Catholic Church, and the High Point Family Center. And we've created Florida-friendly landscape showcase right at our home office on 66th Street. To empower is to give someone official authority, the freedom to do something or to make someone stronger and more confident. The end results of our community improvement projects and programs are cleaner, greener, more beautiful environment, as well as providing individuals with the confidence and strength to facilitate future environmental preservation actions. A good example of empowering the community is through our adoption programs. Our adoption programs consist of Adopt a Mile, Adopt a Trail, Adopt a Shore, Adopt an Island, Adopt an Alley, Adopt a Community, Don't Stand Still, You'll Get Adopted. No, they are an environmental partnership between concerned citizens and Keep Pinellas Beautiful. Individuals and/or groups can give back to the communities in a highly visible way. Adoptions greatly enhance the appearance of our roadways, trails, shorelines, and islands, and go a long way to reduce litter and debris from entering our waterways and polluting our natural habitats of our native wildlife. We are Keep Pinellas Beautiful. We could not do what we do without the participation and the commitment of our valiant givers of time and energy. Our volunteers are the driving force of our organization. Last year alone, we worked with almost 19,000 volunteers on over 1,100 community projects. We are also so grateful for the selfless actions of these individuals and groups here in Pinellas County. We do what we do for the health of the environment, our citizens, and wildlife, the economic impact of a clean, beautiful place, and we do it to create a sustainable sense of ownership and responsibility and respect for the place we call home. Our litter impact, our litter control program impact for 2018 is kind of impressive. During 2018, Keep Pinellas Beautiful conducted 459 educational presentations in the field and in the classroom. We participated in 47 outreach events, and therefore 47,000 plus residents were educated. This past year, Keep Pinellas Beautiful engaged 18,873 volunteers, and our organization coordinated 1,141 community improvement projects. The combined efforts abated over 614,000 pounds of litter. We removed over 147,000 pounds of invasive plants, and we recovered over 9,000 pounds of recyclables. To show the value of our organization, when you take $25, which is the Keep America Beautiful value of an hourly value of volunteers' work, when that is multiplied by 57,618.42 hours of labor in community improvement services, we find that we've saved taxpayers $296,414.35 this past year. Join us to help build and sustain your beautiful communities so that they are economically sound, environmentally healthy, socially connected. We can build a sense of community by working together. Together, we can keep Pinellas beautiful for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat, for sharing
Oh, my pleasure.
what you guys do here at the Pinellas, Keeping Pinellas Beautiful. There's a quote that I read here from Jane Goodall. She says, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference." So often in our lives, we walk around wondering what should we do, or who should we talk to, or what kind of person should we become. And what I love about Pat and your job here with Keeping Pinellas Beautiful is that they strive to make things beautiful, to make them better, to make them even more than what they are today. And so I encourage everyone here in the room as we listen to all our speakers today to think about our next days in hopes to make them beautiful, in hopes to make them better. So thank you, Pat, for all that you do. And we have a little something here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so
very
much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next person I would like to introduce is somebody that I am absolutely humbled to introduce. His name may be simple, his heart is mighty, and his level of work is beyond words of expression. His name is Thomas H. Keith. He was born 2 days after D-Day, which seemed to write the rest of his life story, on June 8th, 1944, in Providence, Rhode Island. He came to be. He lived through many states and as well as countries. He lived in North Africa, as well as Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia. His father was in the Navy, which I believe gave him his first start. He finished high school at the ripe age of 17 in 1962. The next 31 years he spent serving our nation and our country. We thank you. Out of those 31 years, 29 of them were served in the Navy's Underwater Demolition Team 21, as well as SEAL Team 2. Wow, that already is a massive accomplishment. He did 3 tours in Vietnam as part of the SEAL Team 2 team. After his tours, he wrote a book called SEAL Warrior: Death in the Dark. He retired as a Command Master Chief in 1992. After his adventures with the military, he decided to build and run and service a dive shop, a charter, and a deep-sea fishing sea charter as part of his fun times in Puerto Rico. Back in 2001, he sold the company in hopes to try something new. He totally changed pace and became a deputy sheriff of the Monroe County, Florida. He resigned after 1 year and instead started a new trade, going back to Afghanistan and Iraq for 2 more years as a contractor for a Tennessee company. The Tennessee company is EODT. If you're wondering what that stands for or what he did all those years, it stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal Technician. Wow. He then became a security manager and then eventually fully retired. Well earned. He then worked During those 31 years, Mr. Keith has accomplished many awards as well as acts of valor. Just to name a few, he has received 2 Purple Hearts, 3 Bronze Stars with Combat and Valor, 2 Navy Command Medals with Combat and Valor, 1 Navy Achievement Medal with Combat and Valor, 2 Presidential Unit Citations, and 2 Navy Unit Citations, along with many, many awards. He devoted such a long time and so much energy into our country and to our nation. And so when I was asked to teach my son the national anthem, I was very honored, because who are we to say thank you to him? Thank you for your service, and please share your story. Thomas Keith.
Thank you. Welcome, fellow Americans. Last month, Ms. Joan Sitting Bull of the Chrysalis Foundation asked me if I would speak to you here at this year's Everyday Heroes historical event. I consider it an honor to do so. After looking into what the Chrysalis Foundation is all about, its purpose, some of its goals, I noted that instilling Christian values and love of country is among them. I decided to speak to you about American patriotism and one of the most patriotic symbols of the United States of America, the American flag. My name is Tom Keith. I served 31 years in the U.S. Navy, 29 of those years with the Navy's Underwater Demolition Team, retiring as a SEAL Team Command Master Chief. I have traveled, trained, and fought in countries across the Middle East, Europe, Mediterranean, North Africa, Caribbean, Central and South America, the Pacific Islands, and Vietnam. In not one of the many countries I have been in was the flag of the United States of America not instantly recognized for the country it represents and what it stands for. And what does it stand for? Freedom and power. Freedom by we the people, and power for the greatest military force the world has ever known. Several years ago, I was in Las Vegas staying at Caesar's Palace, a hotel casino, and the floor show that night was a group of men from Australia called the 10 Tenors. Their performance was a tribute to the United States military. While they sang the tribute, a video was playing on a large screen behind them. I was able to locate it on the internet, which I'd like to show you now.
Here's to the heroes, those few who dare, heading for glory, leaving a prayer. Here's to the heroes who change our lives. Thanks to the heroes, freedom survives. Here's to the heroes who never rest. They are the chosen. They are the best. Here's to the heroes who reach so high. Here's to the heroes who
I would now like to read an excerpt from Dr. Ben Carson, who is now President Trump's Housing and Urban Development Secretary, his book, One Nation. 200 years ago, this nation was involved in a war, the War of 1812. The British, who were now our good friends, thought that we were young whippersnappers. It was time for us to become a colony again. They were winning that war, marching up the seaboard, destroying city after city, destroyed Washington, D.C., burned down the White House, next stop, Baltimore. As they came into the Chesapeake Bay, that armada of ships, warships, as far as the eye could see, it was looking grim. Fort McHenry, standing right there, General Armstead, who was in charge of Fort McHenry, had a large American flag commissioned to fly in front of the fort. The admiral in charge of the British fleet was offended and said, "Take that flag down. You have until dusk to take that flag down. If you don't take it down, we will reduce you to ashes." There was a young amateur poet on board by the name of Francis Scott Key, sent by President Madison to try to obtain the release of an American physician who was being held captive. He overheard the British plans. They were not going to let him off the ship. As dusk approached, he mourned for his fledgling young nation, and as sun fell, the bombardment started. Bombs bursting in air, missiles, so much debris. He strained, trying to see was the flag still there. Couldn't see a thing. All night long it continued. At the crack of dawn, he ran out to the banister. He looked, straining his eyes, but all he could see was dust and debris. And then there was a clearing, and he held the most beautiful sight he had ever seen, the torn and tattered stars and stripes still waving. And many historians say that was the turning point of War of 1812. We went on to win that war and to retain our freedom. And if you had gone onto the grounds of Fort McHenry that day, you would have seen at the base of that flag the bodies of soldiers who took turns propping up that flag. They would not let that flag go down because they believed in what that flag symbolized. And what does it symbolize? One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. God bless. I would now like to recite a poem to you that was written by Master Sergeant Don Miller of the United States Air Force for his way of remembering his brother, Gunnery Sergeant John Miller of the United States Marine Corps. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutes of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I have flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the deserts of Africa, the cane fields of the Philippines, the rice paddies and jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and a score of places long forgotten by all but those who were with me. I was there. I led my soldiers. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill at Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired. My soldiers cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I helped set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my country. And when it is by those with whom I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I have been a silent witness to all of America's finest hours. My finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used for bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Dear God, long may I wave. I would like to show you one more video that will fit right into our theme today of Everyday Heroes event.
Andrews Tower, good morning. Angel Flight Bravo 02 ready for takeoff. Angel Flight Bravo 02, you're number 1 for takeoff. Runway 25, get them home, boys.
All I ever wanted to do was fly, leave this world and live in the sky. I left the C-130 out of Fort Worth town. I go up some days I don't wanna come down. Well, I fly that plane, call the Angel Flight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the Angel Flight, come on, brother, I'm taking you home. I love my family and I love this land, but tonight this flight's for another man. We do what we do 'cause we heard the call. Some gave a little, but he gave it all. I fly that plane, call the Angel Flight. Come on, brother, you're with me tonight. Brother, you're with me tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the Angel Flight, come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home.
Good afternoon, Angel Flight Bravo 02, checking in level 290. We got a hero on board tonight. Roger, radar contact, Godspeed.
Well, the carpet's quiet and the stars are bright. Feels kinda like church in here tonight. It don't matter where we touch down. On the Angel Flight, it's sacred ground. When I fly that plane, call the Angel Flight. Got a hero riding with us tonight. Between heaven and earth, you're never alone. On the Angel Flight, come on, brother, I'm taking you home. Come on, brother, I'm taking you home.
Well, I can't top that. This concludes my part of today's event. On behalf of the Chrysalis Foundation, we thank you for your attendance here today, and there is much more to come. Thank you, and God bless America.
God bless America indeed. Thank you so much for your service, sir. Pardon me, Mr. Keith. I'd like to give you something, sir. Oh. Sorry about that, Mr. Keith. A little bit confusing. But I wanted to hand you this beautiful artwork, as well as I thank you
Well, thank you very much.
for your service and for coming out and speaking with us today,
My
sir.
service
Thank you.
was a way of life.
Yes, sir, it was. And thank you for giving that way of life so that we may have life now in our generation as well. So just a quick pause in our events. I would like to spend a little bit of time just sharing a couple of sponsors that we have for today's event. The first one I would like to mention is a lady by the name of Debbie. She has an art studio just out front of these back doors here called Deb-Ra Designs. She hand paints as well as designs anything that you would like as a painting. So if you would like to speak to her, just go out there and let her know what you need, take a look at some of her artwork, and have a good time doing that. Also, we have a couple of other wonderful people that have sponsored this event. Publix is a big affiliation, as well as Boar's Head Provisions, Bulk Nation, New to You, Rent King, Slabs, the Florida Aquarium, Zoo Tampa of Lowry Park. So thank you everyone for coming out and helping and sponsoring this event. All right, next is a man that I have known for quite a few years, but didn't know I would have the pleasure to really get to know. He goes by the name of Joe Cataloni. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. But he is the owner of AFFCO Deli Provisions, also better known as the Boar's Head brand. He has founded this company 16 years ago, and it was built on higher standards, committed to quality, and they're proud of their craft. I personally am an associate of Publix Deli, and I have the privilege of selling Boar's Head products. And I will say that their craft is wonderful. It's so easy to sell Boar's Head because they're quality. So Mr. Joe, welcome, and tell us some more about Boar's Head.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Colayanni, and I am the owner, excuse me, of AFFCO Deli Provisions here in St. Petersburg. Boar's Head is a manufacturing company that was founded back in 1905 in New York City. And over the years has basically branched out from New York City from all over the country now. We're in every state, and Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Alaska, Hawaii, and right here locally, I'm the proud purveyor of the Boar's Head brand. Before I even go on to talk about Boar's Head, I want to take one moment again to thank Thomas Keith. Watching his presentation and all the things that he has accomplished really give me goosebumps. It's because of people like him that we have the ability to even be here today. Thank you, Tom. Again, going back to Boar's Head. What makes Boar's Head unique is the fact that after even 100 and almost 20 years of it in its existence, we still do things the old-fashioned way, the way it was done 100 years ago. And sadly, that is not the case for today's manufacturing community out there. People take shortcuts all the time. They don't necessarily use the best ingredients. In today's world where the dollar rules, if you can save $1 here, a penny there, people do take the opportunity to do that. At Borzed, I like to take this time to just let everybody know that we don't do that. We still do things the old-fashioned way. So before we get into what Borzed is unique, Frank Bronkhorst founded the company in 1905 in New York, in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact. He was a German immigrant, and he had come from Germany at the turn of the century. And he was a deli man in Germany, and so when he came here, that's what he decided to do. He was going to open up a deli in New York City. And as we know, Germans are very fickle about their lunch meats, and Franz, at the turn of the century, just wasn't happy with the quality of the product that was available for his deli. So a few years into the business, he decides that he's going to start making his own hams, and thus the beginning of Borzed. Soon after that, he just decided that he was just going to be focusing on producing the products rather than selling them. And 119 years later, we now have facilities in New York, Virginia, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Arkansas, and more to come. Our headquarters is now in Sarasota, Florida, and my company, AFCO Deli Provisions, we are the purveyor of the Borzed brand here in St. Petersburg. We have been in business 17 years, and basically we serve the Publix supermarkets stores here in St. Petersburg, as well as many of the independents, places like the Vinoy Hotel, Gators Restaurant, St. Anthony's Hospital, and many others like that. The one common denominator about the places that we serve is that they are superior. They're the best in town. You can count on them, not only to serve the products, but to serve them in such a way that the product is safeguarded so that the consumers, you guys, get the very best possible products. So what is the very best possible product? Well, at Borzed, we keep it simple. We have a simple rule. If we can't make it better, we're just not going to make it. It's as simple as that, and we live by that rule. We do crazy things. We smoke our Beechwood Smokemaster ham with Beechwood chips that we import from Germany. Yes, the chips, we import them from Germany. We go all over the world to get the recipes. We went to Jamaica to get the jerk for our jerk turkey. We went to Japan to get our Ichiban teriyaki recipe. India for the madrasala. We go to Europe. A lot of our best cheeses come from Europe. Italy, the Reggiano, the Gruyere from Germany, the Gouda from Holland. Again, if we can't make it better, we're just not going to make it. So what are those simple rules that we live by? Well, we call them the 5 no's. And it's, people say, well, how's saying no to something enhance the customer's perception of the product? Well, it's simple because the 5 no's are we don't use any artificial colors or flavors. We don't use any byproducts or fillers. No gluten in our products. No MSG, no trans fats. Well, all of these things may seem pretty standard. I mean, you would make sense. Why would you use artificial colors or fillers or trans fats? Everybody knows trans fats are bad. Well, it is. It's a great question. Why does anybody even use this stuff? Sadly, they do. We're kind of a unique animal out there, if you might say. We're maybe the only company out there that strictly adheres to those standards. Trans fats. Of course, the industry doesn't call them trans fats anymore. They're partially hydrogenated oils and fats. Question is, why would somebody using trans fats feel the need to change the name to partially hydrogenated? Is it to fool us, the consumer? I don't know. I can't make that. I don't know why they do that, but they do. Fats are bad. Trans fats are bad because they're kind of man-made fats, and our bodies weren't designed for that. So they kind of linger around. Eventually, as you get older, you might end up, having a trip to the emergency room with a clogged artery or something, So, Borzet, we don't use trans fats. Gluten is another huge issue out there. Gluten is found in wheat, barley, and rye. So the question begs to be asked, why would there be wheat, barley, and rye in my ham, or in my chicken, or in my turkey breast? Good question. Why would there be? God didn't put it there. People do. All right? Wheat, barley, and rye is used as a filler. What's a filler? A filler is used to enhance the product. So basically like meatloaf, okay? You start out with X amount of meat, and then you put your filler in there, and therefore you got more product. What does that do? It doesn't make the product better. It just makes the product cheaper. More profits for the people that make it and sell it. On top of that, gluten is also has been found to be an issue with folks that have celiac disease. There's over 3 million Americans today that suffer from celiac disease, and they cannot have gluten. Even cross-contamination could cause somebody who suffers from celiac to go into an episode, and it's an intestinal disorder. People that suffer from celiac, they basically get no nutritional value from their food. It goes right through them. Painful experience. At Borzet, we don't use any fillers, so therefore we don't use any wheat, barley, or rye in our products. So our products are gluten-free. Not just our meats or cheeses. Borzet is expanded their line into, we have hummus now. We have, hot dogs, sausages, all sorts of Italian dry cured goods that we have in the stores. If the Borzet logo is in the product, in the label, rest assured that it is gluten-free, all right, or has no trans fats. The other thing, fillers and byproducts. Again, simple words with a ton of meaning. What is a byproduct? Well, guys, in the industry, the source of the ingredients, sadly in some cases, are the animals. And that's how we sustain ourselves. We eat our lunch meat, and it comes from hogs and cows and chickens and turkeys and things like that. Well, the byproducts are the non-desirable parts of the animal, the parts that you and I wouldn't eat given the option. But in an industry where every cent makes a difference, even the byproducts get emulsified and pumped back into some products. I'm proud to tell you that the Borzet products are whole muscle meat. We don't buy a whole hog or a whole turkey. We just buy the parts that we need. So therefore, we just buy the turkey breasts and the chicken breasts or the hindquarters of the hogs and the cows. We don't need a whole animal. So therefore, we don't have to worry about what to do with the byproducts. Again, if we can't make it better, we're just not going to make it. And we're going to use whole muscle meat. Yes, it might cost you a little bit more, But in the great scheme of things, you're buying that quarter pound, half a pound of something, it's minuscule for the health benefits that it provides you. Artificial colors or flavors, obviously we don't have any of those things in there. The colors, we use natural, like the annatto seed imported from Central America to make our American cheese yellow, to make our cheddars yellow. We use natural ingredients. Our oven gold, which is our standard, is the best-selling turkey in America. We use paprika and turmeric. That's what gives it the color, and then we put it in an oven. We oven roast it. Who needs artificial colors when you have the real thing? An item like pesto and Parmesan ham is fresh pesto sauce and freshly grated Parmesan cheese. We actually grate our own Parmesan cheese in our plants. We won't buy the pre-grated stuff because, there's some, who knows where they came from. In our name, honey maple turkey, pure honey, pure maple syrup. Why would we need any artificial anything? Like I said earlier, our Smokemaster ham, we get our wood chips from Germany, the Black Forest of Germany. We go to those lengths because we want to make the product the very best that they can be. We want to live up to our standard. If we can't make it better, we're just not going to make it. MSG is another issue out there that raises eyebrows from time to time. MSG is monosodium glutamate. It's a flavor enhancers that a lot of people use to enhance the flavor of their products. Obviously, if you're using fillers and byproducts, you probably need to boost up the flavor profile of some of your products, and that's where MSG comes in handy. MSG is a naturally occurring ingredient. It's found in our tear ducts, our fingernails. Tomatoes are loaded with MSG, so ketchup would be a lot of it. The problem with MSG is not that it's bad, it's just bad if you have a lot of it. And so therefore, if you don't have the right ingredients in the product and you're forced to add things to make it taste better, then you're probably going a little bit overboard. Again, at Borzet, we don't have any such things. So not only do our product look good, they're very appealing when you go shopping, and if you do shop Publix, and if you don't, I encourage you to do. But if you do shop a store that carries the Borzet brand, the products look appealing to the eye. You certainly always are encouraged to have a taste before you buy. And once you taste it, it's the real thing. You'll know it. Borzet customers rarely compromise their standards and buy other things. Once you're hooked, you're hooked. Going back to what, it looks good, it tastes good, but what most people don't know is what I just spent last few minutes on is how good it is for you. Over the years we have partnered and we have certifications and partnerships with different organizations in the country. For instance, the American Heart Association, all right, we have probably about 40 items that are approved by the American Heart Association. And they're certified by the American Heart Association because they meet their requirements for heart-healthy foods as part of a healthy eating pattern. Now, we meet their standards just by living up to our own standards. How can you tell if an item that you're purchasing is approved by the American Heart Association? You will see a heart-shaped logo right on the product. Very clearly, you can't miss it. Something from a shopper standpoint, something to look forward to. We also have a partnership with the Feingold Association. The Feingold Association of the United States is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is to generate public awareness of the role of food, and synthetic additives in behavior, learning, and health, as well as support members in the implementation of the Feingold program. What that is Dr. Feingold, a fine gentleman that in the late 50s he's a doctor. People were coming to him with issues like hyperactivity in their children, and people didn't know how to deal with that in those days. I'm not sure they know how to deal with it now. In the old days, food was food. Somebody made turkey breast, they had to use turkey breast. But as we got creative in the 50s and the 60s, and additives, artificial this and that started getting added to the foods, the people that were more susceptible were the young, the very young, and the old. The immune systems on the very young is not quite developed yet. So as a result, people were going to their doctors with children that would otherwise been normal, that were a bit rambunctious. And the doctors themselves not knowing what was going on because it was a novelty back then. What's going on? They just medicated the children. They just simply medicated the children. Well, Dr. Feingold was the first person that found a direct link between additives and behavior in children. All he said was, listen, you don't need fancy medicines in this. Here's a list of foods that are nice and clean. Just feed your kids this food. And that's what the Feingold list is. Even today, 70 years later, of course, Dr. Feingold is no longer with us, but his organization still is. And their sole role is to identify foods that are good for you, that are healthy for you. And I'm proud to tell you that most of the Boar's Head products are in the Feingold list. No sodium, we have many items that are low in sodium. Sodium is the biggest threat to our health in today's world, particularly as we get older. High blood pressure, it becomes an issue, and sodium, if we can cut it down, it's desirable. Every one of the different categories of Boar's Head items, whether it's turkey, ham, cheese, bologna, Italian cured items, we have a low-salt alternative. When you go shopping in your local supermarkets, they carry, Publix, that carries the Boar's Head brand. Feel free to ask the associates back there about their low-sodium options. You'd be surprised how well they are. So, Boar's Head products look good. I know they taste good, and so do you. All right? But now you know that they're also good for you. Okay? So with that said, is there any questions from the group here as far as any of the Boar's Head products that you may be consuming or would like to? Did I answer everybody's questions? Yes. The Feingold list. All the delis that serve the Boar's Head brand have what we call a Boar's Head nutritional guide available. It's usually found on the deli. As a matter of fact, we have them here. Okay? We actually encourage shoppers and customers to just take them. They don't cost anything to the shoppers. And in that book, you will find all the items that are approved by the American Heart Association, all the lower sodium items, and of course, calories and sodium, fat, all the things that you want to be looking out for. You're welcome. Anything else? Very good. With that said, I appreciate, thanks Joan for inviting me to this event, and looking forward to helping you in future events. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joe, for your presentation. Boar's Head is absolutely a remarkable business because they're dedicated to something that we've seemed to have gotten lazy on in our culture, and that is quality, the actual fine product of quality. So thank you, Mr. Joe, for what you do. And I actually have a question for you.
Okay.
I know that Publix Supermarket has expanded to the north.
Yes.
Have you also joined them up in the north?
I have sent, I have 2 boys, and one of them is a purveyor in Nashville, and my younger one has actually helped the company expand the company meaning Publix, expand into north in the Carolinas, spend a year helping Publix open up those stores up there.
Perfect. So what I hear is that not only are we excellent in Florida, but we are also going to expert ourselves all the way out into the north of our beautiful country and hopefully grow even more and more as the years go on.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your hard work. And Marcus, could you give Mr. Joe his present, please?
Oh, Marcus, well, thank you. All right, you did great. Great job singing the national anthem. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. All right, so thus far we have talked through quite a few different organizations and people that have made a difference in our world. Just to recap, we've talked to Pat about keeping our Pinellas beautiful. We've also heard from Command Master Chief Thomas Keith, and then also Mr. Joe here with Boar's Head. So at this time, I would like to open up the floor for anybody who has questions or concerns or maybe anything that they would like to share to make our time here even much more better. Any questions? Any concerns? Okay, perfect. All right. Well, next we're going to go ahead and swiftly move on to the next person by the name of Cliff Sullivan. This is a SCORE mentor, and we're going to kind of shift things from talking about America and making things beautiful, and we're going to jump over into business and marketing and how do you grow and how do you become better in our world. So Cliff is quite experienced in business and marketing. He's been in accounting and sales and owned and operated several businesses. Some of those businesses included things like plumbing, heating, air conditioning, residential and commercial, for 35 years. He was a formerly licensed plumber and a licensed electrician. He then went to become a broker in real estate for an insurance company, Internal Revenue Services, real estate development, investor. He was also sat on the board for 8 years, a chairman for planning land use, of how to use our land more efficiently. He's used the SCORE business in person to teach people how to build their own businesses, how to start their own businesses, how to grow them, how to thrive them, how to establish and maintain them, all through hard work, marketing, sales, social media, and business planning. So let me introduce to you Cliff Sullivan, who has more to share about SCORE Mentor.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Marcus. Good job. Good morning. I'm here to represent SCORE today. SCORE is a national nonprofit resource of the Small Business Administration. And 85% of the American economy is based on small business. So, and many people would like to become their own bosses. Well, SCORE is here to help that. We help new businesses that are people just dreaming about business, and we help people who are already in business but could use a little extra expertise at different points in their business development. So SCORE is a national nonprofit that has more than 10,000 volunteers, and we have over 400 chapters in communities all across the country. So every year, SCORE helps new and existing businesses to become stronger and more efficient, to make a good place for their employees and for themselves. Everyone likes to be independent. So SCORE is in Pinellas County. We have 60 members right here, and we operate 2 offices, one at the Greenhouse in St. Pete, next to City Hall, where we do workshops and where we do business mentoring, one-on-one, face-to-face, nonprofit, and it's very confidential too. So, in addition to that, we have all sorts of resources there too, and nationally. But the other office is at the Airport Office Park in Clearwater, and we have a nice office there where we operate there 4 days a week. All you need to do, if you'd like some mentoring and some not confidential assistance from SCORE members, you can go on our website and you can just book yourself into an appointment there. And in the back of the room, I've left some materials there where you can sign up for mentoring too. Everything we do is without cost. We put on over 200 business workshops, business education workshops, each year right here in Pinellas County at all of the libraries and some other venues. So those are free. And the people that present them are usually experts in the field, experts that you might never get to see in real life. They might be so busy, but they volunteer their time to come here and to present special niche workshops on their expertise that you might never have gotten to find out until you come to one of our workshops. When I do personal mentoring between SCORE people and clients, I always like to say that if you attend our workshops, not only would you get some business expertise, but you might find an opportunity to network. I know that I always go around all of the rooms and say, who are you and what brings you here? And then I see them after the workshop. I see them all networking with each other. And it's really a good feeling. So I do several workshops. I've been doing them for almost 11 years now. This is my 11th year with SCORE. But it really gives me a good feeling to know that we're helping people with help that they couldn't otherwise get. Every time I work with one of our SCORE members, I'm amazed at how smart they are, how highly experienced they are, and they look just like you and me, but when they were in business, when they were doing their stuff, they were the top of the heap. And right now, you can talk to them all for free. SCORE also does email mentoring. I do that, and about 500 other members do across the country. So you can just go to score.org/mentors, put in a keyword, and you'll find the page fill with other SCORE members that have that expertise that will help you with your particular problem and your business problem. So I think that it's the best kept secret in town. No one realizes that it's there, and we do a lot. We've been in business since 1964. And in fact, I was a SCORE client back then, after I got out of the Navy. And I've been partially assisting Joan Sitting Bull with the establishment of her nonprofit more than 5 years ago. And we still stay in touch, and generally SCORE mentors stay in touch with their clients as they move forward. They're at their call, at their connection. Anytime they need us, they can contact us. And we don't mind helping them. We always feel good about our clients. Joan wanted me to say also a little bit about my Navy career. It wasn't that long a one, but it was an interesting one. I know it was life-changing to me. When I was 17, I joined the Navy, and they said they were going to take care of me, and here I am, well into my senior years, and they still are taking care of me. But I joined a ship based in Boston, the USS Glacier. That might have given me a hint. But I reported to the ship and I said, hey, where's this ship go anyway? And they said, well, Sonny, it goes to the South Pole and it's leaving tomorrow. Welcome aboard. So at first, that didn't really sound like such a good idea. But I did like it. I got all this experience of learning to be an electrician from electrical schools, and then I was an electrician on board the ship. But I made a lot of friends on the ship. It was a long cruise on down to the Antarctic, about 15,000 miles. And one of our first stops, of course, is the Panama Canal, which a lot of people haven't had that experience. It was interesting. And that was our first Liberty port. Of course, remember, I was only 17 or 18 by then. And then we would stop in American Samoa, Pago, which, of course, that's where most of the giant football players come from. And that was great. And then we had a long time across the Pacific, the South Pacific, which it's a lot bigger than most people think. So then we would stop in Christchurch, New Zealand, where they had that big earthquake a few years back. Lovely, lovely place. And then we would get our supplies all ready, and then we head out towards Antarctica. And that was about a week, a little more than a week to get from New Zealand to the Antarctic. And the seas and oceans were there, was so rough. It was sort of like that movie, The Biggest Storm, and the other ones that are there. But you see those big waves, they were some of them were 35 and 40 feet. And one moment you'd be looking down into the trough, and the next moment you'd be looking up to the top of the wave. And we used to have to strap ourselves into our bunks. You would fall out. You couldn't go topside of the ship without wearing a safety belt and latch it onto a lifeline. It was a lot rougher than people could think. I know people that had been 20 years in the Navy and would come on our ship and get seasick. Luckily, I never did. But it would take us we would break ice at about a rate of about 1 mile per day. 1 mile per day. And that's going back and forth, ramming the ice, backing up, ramming the ice. And it was a long time. We had 2 helicopters, which would go up and look for the weakness in the ice, where there was a little crack maybe or a place that we might go. So we would zigzag a little bit following those opportunities. And once we would get into and we would break ice, sometimes ice up to 10 feet thick. So it was an amazing job. And we would break a channel all the way into the Air Force base at McMurdo Sound in order to provide a place for the supply ships to get in. And we worked with 2 other ships and sometimes Coast Guard ships, the Navy ship Edisto and the Navy ship Atka, and a couple of Coast Guard ships. So we would go back and forth, and then we would go out and we would hook on to the freight ships that were bringing things in, and we would tow them in because they couldn't negotiate even the crushed ice that we left behind. So that was pretty much our job. Then we would have to go back to New Zealand. We would go to Wellington, New Zealand, the capital, where we would spend about a month in dry dock trying to fix the ship from all the damage that we sustained while breaking ice. Many times our propellers would even broke. We had Marnell steel propellers, and they would break so that you couldn't, we could barely run the ship sometimes. So we would spend that time, they would fix us all up, fix us with new engines, and back we would go, back into the Antarctic with doing exploration in the unexplored areas of Antarctica, like the Bellinghausen Sea. So we had a lot of scientists on board studying all those things, and we had a little boat called the Greenland Cruiser. It was a 36-foot boat, and we would put that over, and the scientists would all go out in that and do all their sampling and things. So, and then all the time we would tow a device behind the ship that would record water temperature and water currents, and of course that adds to the national and worldwide databases to help with climate change. And during the time I was there, Operation Deep Freeze 61 and 62, that was part of the International Geophysical Year, where all of the nations in the world that participate in Antarctica agreed to share all their knowledge and all the things that they learned individually to help create a better atmosphere and a better ecological climate there in Antarctica. So today when I look at on Discovery Channel and I see Antarctica and I think, wow, it's been quite a while since I was there, but look what they did with the place. They've really expanded. And at one time, we had helped bring in parts for an atomic generating plant. But after 30 or so years, they decided that wasn't really working out. So today, when I see Antarctica and I see all the melted ice, I see all the dirt and mud that we never saw when I was there before, I can tell you that we know that the climate change is here, and whether we can deal with it, the only thing we can do is try to work hard and protect our own environment, and maybe we'll have some effect on it. So I think that's about it for me today. I appreciate your paying attention and visiting with me. It was always fun to remember some of those old things on the Wayback Machine, but all us old veterans, that's what we do. The veterans talk about their battle scars and their old adventures. Thank you very much.
We thank you, Mr. Cliff, for sharing those battle scars, because far too often we don't hear about them. Thank you so much for your service. All right, I'm a little excited to introduce our next person. His name is Denny Mitchell, because he seems to have found an interest in the same thing that I like, which is animals, tigers, cats, dogs, snakes, all sorts of animals. I'm going to bring him up here to talk to you guys about this very cool foundation called the Big Cat Rescue. They're located out of Tampa, Florida. Her main mission is to rescue big cats that people have brought home, and then the cat's gotten too big and they don't know what to do with it. So they call the Big Cat Rescue to help them out with their felines. I don't know if you know this, but in America, fish, cats, and then dogs, those are the most popular pets. So it seems that cats are victorious over dogs after all. So Denny, if you would come up here and share with us your cat rescue experience.
Thank you. Good morning. Some tough acts to follow, huh? Some wonderfully noble people. Just great. Yeah, my name is Denny Mitchell. I've been a volunteer at Big Cat Rescue for 18 years. We have two missions. The first is to house and care for about 65 exotic cats. There's a total of 40 different kinds. They all behave the same, and for that reason, they've been around for 35 million years. So I'm going to take a little detour with this. Our second mission is to get laws passed that prevent your neighbor from owning a lion or tiger, okay? And sadly in America, we have more tigers privately owned than all the tigers in the world. Think about that, in the wild. It's just crazy. We have about 10,000 that are privately owned. There's less than 4,000 in the wild. And so our goal is to keep them there. And sadly, we have people who live in neighborhoods. They move in and they find out that down the street there's a tiger in the backyard. And Florida is one of those states. So that's what we're all about. But I'm going to take it a little different direction because I think everybody knows a little bit about lions and tigers and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to share with you a lot of information about cats. And the good news is that hopefully you will appreciate it, especially if I can get this computer to work. Okay, give me just a second. Okay, are we good? Okay, we on? Here we go. Good. Okay, I do a presentation that is all about cats. Because over 18 years working at Big Cat Rescue, I've been asked a million questions. And in the process, I've compiled a whole lot of information that I've shared with many people. And so I hope you enjoy it. We're going to have a little fun, too, because cats are lots of fun, aren't they? Yes? You agree? Okay. So here we go. Okay, I have lived with cats all my life. If you doubt that, that's me. That was about 100 years ago. That cat was one of our first cats. His name was Ichabod, and you can tell why, right? Okay. And I discovered that I'm an ailurophile. If you don't know that word, welcome to the world, because most people don't. It comes from the Greek language. It dates back about 3,000 years. And it means cat lover. And the good news is, it is in the English language. So in the course of my activities, I came across an expression that a fellow came up with. His name happened to be Albert Schweitzer. He says there's two means of refuge from the miseries of life, music and cats. And believe me, I completely agree with him. So this is refuge. This is what he looked like. He was a brilliant man. He had 3 PhDs by the time he was 30. And then he went to work as a medical doctor. Went to Africa, saved thousands of lives because the people there didn't have medical care. So I agree with him. Was a theme and variation of what was called Kitten on the Keys. It was written over 100 years ago. And it really is true. And this is what would happen if a kitten was on the keys and did that. How about that? Okay, we're going to start at the beginning. The Earth is 2 billion years old. Some say it's 10 billion. I don't know. I wasn't there. But when I do this for little kids, I think some of them think I was. So, anyway. And During the early days, all kinds of creatures walked, climbed, flew, crawled, trying to figure out a way to make it work. And most of them didn't. Their genes were not perpetuated. And then about 500 million years ago, this guy arrived. This happens to be a cephalopod. And they were one of the first meat eaters. And Mother Nature said, hey, that model seems to work. And so they continue to survive. And you know what? They're still around today. We call them octopus and squid. How about that? And eventually the carnivores evolved into these guys 265 million years ago. And yeah, they were big meat eaters. And about the same time, Grandma arrived. This is one of the first mammals. This was called a Watsani masagan. Strange name. The good news for her is she was tiny, so she fit between the toes of the dinosaur, and they didn't know she was there. And Mother Nature really liked that model, and the reason she did was because Mom had a food supply built in. And the advantage of that was that the offspring would stay around. And what did that do? That gave Mom a chance to teach them. And that's true with cats. If you know a domestic cat, if he was raised properly, he would be with his mom until he was about 7 months old, and then she would tell him to go out and get a job. And the big cats will be 2 years, and we know that with people, we could be 18, 25, 30 years, depending upon what our mom says. And then the good news is the dinosaurs went away. And this is not too far from the truth. Turns out that we had a meteor that hit the Earth about 65 million years ago, the time that the dinosaurs went away. And it was located in the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Mexico. It was 50 miles wide. It created a cavern of over 100 miles. And it created all kinds of debris in the atmosphere, including a huge amount of sulfur. And with that, 75% of the life on the planet went away. Don't worry about it. The authorities say the chances of that happening again are 1 in a billion. So I haven't lost any sleep over that. So about 65 million years ago, this guy arrived. This was a mammal, and as you can see, it was called a Mysidae. And from the Mysidae evolved a dog, and this happened to be a bear dog, about 1,000 pounds. How'd you like to have one of those at the foot of your bed in the morning? The good news is they went away a few years ago, like 10,000. And then Mother Nature looked at the dog and said, guess what? You guys are noisy, you run around in packs, you create havoc, so I'm going to try something later and better. And sure enough, she came up with the kitty cat 35 million years ago. This was called a saber-toothed tiger by many people, but it wasn't a tiger at all. It was just a big cat. And you know what? They even existed here in Florida. In the archaeological digs, they come up with cat skulls this big. They went away about 10,000 years ago, and that's a good thing for us. And if you doubt that cats come from the Mysidae, if you look at the upper image, that is the Mysidae, and you look at the lower image, that is a cat. And that's called a jaguarundi. And you know what? They still exist in South America. Lots of similarity there. So we have two orders. We have Feliformia, which is the cats, and in the cat family, how about that? This is a hyena. Woo, what's that all about? And of course, with dogs, we have bears, wolves, pandas, raccoons, and so forth. And so the cats were doing pretty well. And then one day they saw an opportunity. About 5,000 years ago, we were starting to store grain in containers in the Middle East. And with the containers of grain came the vermin. So the cats came to us and said, hey, make you a deal. You take care of us, we'll take care of the vermin. And that was the beginning of the symbiotic relationship between man and the domestic cat. So the domestic cat was, in fact, the African wildcat. So it was a pretty cool arrangement. And in places like Egypt, they ended up having their gods and goddesses depicted as royal cats. How about that? And if you lived in places like that and your cat passed away, you would have to shave your eyebrows for a year. If you exported a cat out of the country, they would put you to death. And they even had a festival in Egypt, which was pretty cool. There was a small town there, and every year, 700,000 people would gather to celebrate cats. It was called the Bastetas. And no children were allowed, and I'm told they drank more booze on that weekend than they did for the entire year. How about that? Talk about an excuse to party. Well, cats are pretty good for that. So, here we have the domestic, the only one of the 40 cats that's suitable as a pet. And if you doubt that, come to Big Cat Rescue and you will find out about it. And they really make a wonderful pet. And they put us in our place. Yeah, this could be me. We have cats. I had suggested to my wife we only have 2. That's why we have 5. And I have this problem, and I solved it. I got a folding chair. And guess who gets the folding chair? Okay. So one of the things you learn with the 40 different kinds of cats, there's only one that walks with his tail straight up in the air. And so here is Proud Tails. But sadly, it didn't last forever. We moved into the Dark Ages, and all of a sudden the cats were considered friendlies of the devil. We had a terrible disease, the plague. Over 25 million people passed away from it, the equivalent to the entire population of Europe. And so the witches were persecuted and put to death, and so were the cats. Because people thought the cats were the ones that had the fleas that caused the plague. And it turned out it was the rats who had the fleas that caused the plague. So talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Oh my goodness, we certainly did. So that went on for over 1,000 years. And then about the 18th century, things got better for cats. And all of a sudden, they were accepted as pets. They were moved into homes. People loved them. They brought them into their homes because they are so clean. And I agree with that. I don't know if you've ever lived with a cat. If you've ever given them a bath, it can be very traumatic. I have never done that. That's why I have no scars on my arms. So, one of the things that I ask people all the time is, would a cat be right for you? And to help you with the answer, here is when a cat is right for you. As you walk your pet in the early morning dew, and don't like carrying that little bag for poo, do you mind when someone knocks on your door and your house sounds like a zoo? And a cat is right for you. If you don't mind waking at the first light of day, or pulling a string along to share a time for play. If you need to do a little exercise, then food bowl and litter pens just might be wise. And a cat is right for you. If you suffer hypertension, a little cat pill is what you need. He'll help you drop your numbers as he shows you how he needs. If you don't mind interruptions as you work at home, it's 'cause they want your attention since they're often alone. If you would like to be brushed with tender rubbing hair and have a creature with you who will almost always care, then a cat is right for you. If you like to be with someone who thinks you're great, to keep it that way, be sure to fill their plate. And when they show affection, you must always beware. For when they want to kiss you, just think how they wash back there. And when your daily tasks are done and you doze off for a nap, then you wake up to find a furry ball softly purring on your lap. And you know it doesn't get better than that. Then a cat is right for you. So you might want to consider that. Now, if you do get a cat, keep in mind that you may have a problem in the morning if you like to sleep in, because they like to get you up so that you will feed them. And one of my cats has figured out how to get me up. I like to sleep on my side, and I want you to know when you get a very cold, wet nose in your ear, you get up. And to illustrate the point, a fellow by the name of Simon did a beautiful job.
Meow. 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 Meow.
So that's something to consider, that's for sure. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the physical attributes of cats. Anybody know what their mission in life is? Sleep, 70% of the time. The other 30% is to be a predator carnivore. And their mission is to get rid of the vermin, the diseased, and the overpopulated. And they have a big deal up in Canada. Every decade, the snowshoe hare population increases by 10 to 25 times in a single year. Nobody knows why. And guess whose population increases proportionately? The Canadian lynx. Gee whiz. And they are so designed for that. They only have 500 taste buds. We have 9,000. They need 90% of their diet in protein and fat. So don't bother giving a cat Twinkies. And we don't do it at Big Cat Rescue. We go through 300 pounds of meat a day. We have to buy it because we're controlled by the USDA. But these animals are incredible, and that's why they're worth saving. Okay, brains just like ours. They have a left brain, a right brain, and in spite of their instinctive makeup, guess what they do? They pick us. We don't pick them. And we see that at Big Cat. I'll be walking by a cat, and the cat will look at me and start purring, and I'm purring, and everybody's happy. I'll walk by another one, and they'll hiss and spit and growl at me. I have no idea why. And then we have another kind that'll turn around, lift their tail, and try to spray you. And if it's a tiger, it's good for about 8 feet, so you have to pay attention. So their brains are very much like ours. And people wonder, are these sentient creatures? Do they have emotions? If you've never lived with a cat, trust me. As a matter of fact, and this is a little maudlin, the cat behaviorists recommend that if you live with more than one cat, one of your cats passes, what you want to do is have the surviving cat visit the corpse. And they will prod it, they'll sniff it, and in many cases, they'll lay down next to it. And what does it do? It gives them closure. Sound familiar? Yeah, I think so. They rest a lot because they can. The other reason is they have to keep their batteries charged. And so if you ever live with a cat, you need to play with it. And the behaviorists recommend a minimum of 10 minutes a day. And if you don't do that, you can have some issues. So if you ever have a problem with a cat with that, there's an easy fix. How about a paper cup full of water on top of the roll? Do that once or twice. They don't like me sharing that, but that's the way it is. They have the largest eyes compared to their body mass of any mammal. They don't have particularly good vision. They are nearsighted. Their distance vision is the bottom slide there, part of the slide, and that's what we see above. They don't see red. They don't see the full color spectrum. And so you can argue, well, I play with my cat and I have a red laser light. What's that all about? What they're seeing is motion, and their brains are tuned to motion. Anything that moves, they're on it so quick you have no idea. Much faster than we could respond. But if you're a predator carnivore, not a bad thing. They can see 295 degrees, which means they can turn their head almost all the way around. Why would you need that? Bad guy's chasing you. You want to know where he is. And the reason they can do that is their collarbone is not attached to their skeleton with bone. It's tissues and muscles. How about that? They can see 7 times better than us in low light. They have a reflective layer of cells behind the retina. So when the light comes in, it bounces back and it serves as an amplifier. They have over 30 muscles in their ears, so they can flatten them out when they go into a battle. And if they don't know where they're going, they can tilt them forward. And if a bad guy's chasing them, they can tilt them backward to know where he is. And if they don't know if they're coming or going, they can tilt one forward and tilt one backwards. Not a bad thing. They hear up to 60,000 hertz. By comparison, we hear up to 20,000. And as we age, we are not going to discuss it. Okay. What'd you say? Oh, all right. Okay, smell is really important. This is one of the ways that cats communicate. They put their scent on themselves, and that's the identifier, because as a predator carnivore, you don't ever want to give away your presence. So you meet a buddy that you haven't seen in a while, and you like them, what do? You rub up against each other. You exchange the scent. You don't make any noise. And cats can smell their sense of smell is about 1,000 times more sensitive than ours. A lion can detect a female in heat for up to 2 miles just from the odor in the air. They groom a lot in order to keep their scent on their body. That's one of the reasons most of them don't like water, because when they go in the water, it washes off their scent. And what's the first thing they have to do when they get out? Put it back on. Tongues, look at those tongues. Yep. Those barbs are made out of keratin, same thing as your fingernail. They're pointed inward. Great for pulling loose hair off your body. Also really good for pulling meat off a bone if you are a tiger. Pretty cool thing. Whiskers, those are the wind barometers. Everybody knows that a cat uses them to decide how wide a thing they can get into. But the main use for that is to determine where the wind's coming from. Because if a bad guy's chasing you, you want to run with the wind. If you are going after prey, you want to go against the wind so you don't give away your presence. And they're so sensitive, you have no idea. And to bear that out, have you ever seen a cat in a car going down the road sticking his head out the window? You never will. They don't do it. They talk with their tail. If you've ever lived with a cat, you know that. You start petting it, it's getting really excited, the pupils dilated, the ears go down, and the tail goes like this. You might want to stop. And if you're feeding a cat, what do? They come over and wrap their tail around your leg and thank you for the food. Tails are also important for balance and as a rudder. And rule of thumb for most cats is they can jump 6 times the length of the tail, exclusive of lions and tigers. So if you have a mountain lion with a 3-foot tail, do the math. And yes, they've been known to jump as high as 20 feet vertically, 40 feet horizontally. They purr. This is very soothing. It actually creates endorphins. And it also helps them get their emotions under control. It's very relaxing. They can look like other animals. Have you ever seen a cobra? Claws, they're their fingers. And unfortunately, about 25% of the domestics in America are declawed. And we have some cats at Big Cat Rescue that were declawed. And we don't understand that. There's countries in the world where it's against the law because it's an amputation of the last joint of each of their digits. The good news is New York State, a couple of months ago, passed a law making it illegal. And we understand New Jersey and California are about to do the same. And here's why they scratch. You see the blood supply, and then you look at the end of the nail, and there's no nourishment. So what happens to it? It becomes brittle. It breaks. It becomes dull. So what do? You have to replace it. So let's get rid of the ends and replace it with more recently nourished tissue. They have 236 bones. You talk about flexibility. You start in the upper left and go to the lower right. And these 2 guys managed to get into that canister. And I'm convinced the only way they could get out would be with a hammer or forceps, but the reality is they worked it out. They stalk. Why do they stalk? It's too much work to run. The other reason, they only sweat through their paws, so they can overheat. So what do cats do? They stalk their prey. They try to get as close to it as they can, and then they sprint after it. Even the cheetah that goes 0 to 60 in a few seconds only runs a couple of 100 yards. And during that time, their internal temperature can go from 101 to 106. They have the ability to plug into the electromagnetic spectrum and use it for navigation. You may have heard examples of it. Somebody moves here from Chicago. They bring their cat. They don't condition the cat. What do they do with it? They put it in the bathroom for a week. That's how you condition it, so he gets used to the sights, smells, and so forth. And if you don't do that and the cat escapes, a year from now they can be back at the house in Chicago. How do they do that? They didn't drive. They can't read a map. Ooh, this is the way they do it. Pretty important tool. We had to have GPS and compasses in order to accomplish the same thing. They're not real concerned about heights. And the reason, they fall at about half the rate we do. We fall, our maximum speed is about 120 miles per hour. They fall at about 60, and they also know how to relax. So when they're falling, they actually flare, spread their paws. It serves kind of as a parachute, okay? And then when they hit the ground, they don't do it stiff-legged like we would. What they would do is roll on their front paws and roll the energy through their body. And they have the ability to scare off the big guys. And the way you do that is how about raising all your hair so you look bigger and badder. So if you were to design a really interesting predator carnivore who's paranoid, a cat is a great example. But sadly, there's too many of them. According to the Humane Society of the United States, one female cat can be responsible for 400,000 offspring in 7 years. Gestation is only 63 days. They can have their first litter their first year. They can have 3 or 4 litters a year who go on to have litters and so forth. The good news is they're the world's most popular pet. In America, about 100 million of them live with us, but sadly, there's about 50 million plus that are on the street. Nobody knows for sure how many. And so I don't know if you've ever communicated with an animal, but I had a chance. I was walking down the street one day and I saw this cat by a car tire. He was really mangy looking. It's obvious he was feral, had no involvement with people, had a dangling ear. He was kind of dirty, which was surprising. And he made it very clear that if I walked one more step towards him, he would be gone. So I stopped, and we did one of these things for about a minute. And during that time, he told me his story. And so here it is. I call this Tom's Lament. I'm just a hungry pussycat, wondering where my next meal's at. I spend my time wandering round the street, looking for something that I can eat. Mom, you taught me that things may get rough. I never dreamed it'd be this tough. Even when you find something good to eat, there are so many others that I have to beat. Meow, meow. There is nothing I wouldn't give for a toasty home where I could live. Meow, meow. I'd be the best mouser you would ever see. I'd make the most determined vermin wish they would never be. So when you see me run away from you, it's 'cause I've seen what you can do. Some of you are mean and beat us with sticks. Don't you understand? All we want is some meow mix. Meow, meow. There is nothing I wouldn't give for a toasty home where I could. We know we have too many progeny. I guess we really don't get monogamy. It would be great if you would help our gals get fixed, so we don't keep on adding so many to our mix. Meow, meow. There is nothing I wouldn't give for a toasty home where I could live. Meow, meow. I'd be the best mouser you would ever see. I'd make the most determined vermin wish they would never be. So, what can we do about it? Well, we're doing it at Big Cat, and a lot of private parties are doing it. Of course, you can always adopt a cat. Humane societies are loaded with them. Come springtime, oh my goodness, that is the real breeding season, and they're looking for people to take them. And if you've never lived with a cat that was comfortable around people, you're missing something. They are so transparent. I have never met one that was a hypocrite. You always know what they want. They make it very clear. You can volunteer at an animal rescue. Very gratifying. You're doing a lot of good. How about trap, neuter, and vaccinate and release? What happens there? Whoop, gotta go back here, sorry. What happens there is people find a colony that live out in the woods and they start feeding them. And when you bring a bunch of cats together, guess what? You're going to get more cats. So what do? They actually take these cats and they take them down and get them fixed. We have a place in Hillsborough County that'll do it for $10, 1 day a month. And then they put them back on the street. It breaks the breeding cycle, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's a Band-Aid. And of course, you can always donate, and humane societies and many of the other rescues are always struggling for funds. There never seems to be enough because their load continues to increase. And the greatest solution is fostering. And the way this works, you have a neighbor who has a cat, the cat has a litter, don't want the litter, call Humane Society. They call people like Big Cat Rescue and many private parties. People have their garage or their family room or their patio set up to handle little tiny kittens. And at Big Cat Rescue, we'll take them when they're newborn. And our interns have to feed them every 2.5 hours with eyedroppers. And we keep them until they're about 10 to 12 weeks old, 2 pounds. They get their shots, back they go, and it's time for you to go get a cat. And because of the engagement with us, because we all go in and pet them, hug them, love them, play with them over that 10 to 12 week period, and you go walking by a cat and out comes this paw. Will you take me home with you? And the incidence of adoption skyrockets. And these are the cats that sit on your lap, on your keyboard, on your newspaper, and you are the most important creature on the planet to them. And if you've never lived with a socialized cat, you're missing something. But not all cats make good pets, and that's what Big Cat Rescue is all about. You know, a lot of people would take a look at this cat and say, wow, isn't this cool? I would love to have one of those. Well, it turns out it's a mountain lion kitten. And really adorable, kind of like kids, you know, when they're small, they're just great. And then they grow up, and that's when we have the problems. Yes, okay. And so you get one of these as a kitten. About 1.5 years from now, here's what you have. About 120 pounds. And who's going to babysit it when you want to go to Disney World for a week? Costs you about $3,000 to $4,000 a year. You want to own a lion or tiger? It costs you $10,000 a year. What do you do for vet care? I don't know too many domestic cat vets that will do big cats. And this is the irony. This is so crazy. This is actually a picture of a tiger in somebody's backyard. And we have states where you can have them. We have states that have no laws. And fortunately, we have states where you can't. We have a bill in Congress called the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And the purpose of the bill is to keep them away from us so they can enjoy a normal life and we will be safe. And I'm very happy to tell you, after a 6-year effort, within the last month, we finally got it at a committee in the House of Representatives. And so it's going to go to the floor by the end of this year. And if all things go well, it will get passed, and Big Cat Rescue eventually will go out of business because we shouldn't have to be doing what we're doing. So that's the message. If you've not been there, I would encourage you to do it. Even if you're not crazy about cats, you'll learn so much. They manifest so many amazing things in nature, as I've tried to explain. We're up about 20 minutes north of Tampa Airport, right off the Veterans Expressway. And the interesting thing about cats is that there are 40 different ones, and they all behave the same. I asked our vet the other day, what's the difference in treating a tiger versus a tabby? He looked at me, didn't hesitate, said size, and that was it. And it really is true. And there's been a lot of comments about that. You know, the domestic is one whisker away from being wild. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And God created the domestic so that man could embrace the tiger. Ooh, that's pretty cool. How about that? And a fellow by the name of Leonardo da Vinci, he said, the smallest feline is a masterpiece. But cats and people have a lot in common. For example, we can be combative. We need to groom. Our moms teach us how to play. And sometimes you don't have a mom to do that. This is one of my cats. It's the string. She's excited by it, but she doesn't know what to do with it. I've showed it to cat behaviors, and they just scratch their head. She apparently doesn't connect it. We need to exercise, do we? I think so. We can be a little goofy sometimes. Sure. We can be affectionate. Oh, indeed we can. We can get angry, you think. We can be surprised. We can be very patient. We can hang out with the enemy, particularly if it's cold. And sometimes their aspirations are maybe a little more than their ability. Go. Okay. They can have some of our problems. We usually cause that by overfeeding them. They will be tolerant of other creatures. They are concerned, some of them, about the extraterrestrial, so they're always keeping an eye out. They can accommodate their friends. We start in the upper left and go to the lower right, and look at how they were able to work that out. They can have a bad hair day, just like us. I don't know who would do that to a cat. They like to fly. They can be glamorous. And if they're bad, they try to blend in so nobody knows they're there. And if they ever need a replacement for Yoda in Star Wars, I know just the cat. This is called a Sphinx. And the breeders breed them for people who are allergic to cats. And hopefully they think that it's the hair that causes the allergy. And the reality is it's the dander. So you get a cat like this, you're still going to be allergic. But it is what it is. You can always go to an ENT and they'll give you shots for it. They can be very patient. Yes, they can. And they do have sensibilities, even if they don't know how to spell. They will embrace technology. As a matter of fact, I got an email from a domestic cat advocacy group asking everybody to retire their laptop computer and go to a tablet, because the laptop's taking one of their favorite sleeping places, and a tablet has other uses that they like. And these things really do work. There's all kinds of apps for that. They love to sunbathe, but the preparation time takes a little more than we do. They are curious. They can really be zany. They can reflect their environment, you think. They will share our exuberance, absolutely. They can be shocked. Woo. They can feel good in the morning, can't we? And in spite of what you heard, they can be herded. But sadly, because they hang out with us, sometimes they cross the line. Would you call that a couch potato? And sometimes they really cross the line. This is El Gato. He is a cat burglar.
Meet Dusty. By day, he's a house pet. When the sun goes down, it's time to hit the streets. Dusty is a cat burglar.
So she always steals stuff.
Neighbors like 5-year-old Ethan McClellan know him by his alias, Klepto, the cat.
Well, she took my mom's swimming clothes.
Neighbors are on guard, but his victims don't intend to file police reports.
No, we haven't, because we know where to go.
I think those are for playing hockey.
They go to Jean Chu and Jim Coleman's home. Dusty belongs to them. In the past 3 years, they figure he's stolen about 600 items, and he's not choosy. He'll take anything that's not locked down.
Towels, gloves, shoes, socks, little toys, children's toys.
This pair of shoes, which he took in 2 trips, and even people's personal items.
Whitey's, and we had some black ones too.
He especially likes bathing suits drying outside. He stole Kelly McClellan's bikini bottom.
And then came back about 10 minutes later and took the top home. So, yeah, we know him very well.
Dusty's MO is always the same. He leaves home at night and returns with his loot in the early morning. The TV network Animal Planet recently installed a camera outside the house. It captured his nightly forays for a week. Chew says Dusty's record take for one night is pretty amazing. One night, how many?
11 different things.
It's getting dark now. The question is, which house will Dusty hit? It's a perfect night for a heist.
Okay, so as you can see, we are pretty well entwined with the domestic cat. They're an important part of us and our culture. And, you know, the question then is their perception their reality, just like us? And maybe it is. But look at how they've impacted us culturally. How many of us have grown up with these characters, learned some of life's lessons, and been greatly amused? And we have a thing coming on that's interesting if you don't want to live with a cat but would like to know more. They're called cat cafes. And they started in Asia because many people have small homes. They can't have an animal. And so entrepreneurs have opened up these businesses where you can go get a cup of coffee and hang out with cats. And you can adopt them. There's over 200 of them in North America, and I happen to know 2 people that are trying to open one here and one over in Hillsborough. So it's a pretty cool thing because the humane societies, the animal rescues, provide the cats that would be adoptable. And you don't have to change the litter box when you hang out with them, which is a nice thing. So finally, the question is what it would be like if we acted like cats.
What? Will you rub my belly? Stop. No, rub it. Stop. Rub it. I like you.
Oh.
Don't worry, it's dead. This is good.
Hey, I wanted to meet my girlfriend. This is Carol. He takes a while to warm up to people.
So wouldn't that be funny? So anyway, to circle back to Big Cat Rescue, what I'm showing you is a lot of the permutations that all cats have. But there's a difference between the domestic and the other 39 cats, and that is they are very dangerous, not to say that the domestic isn't, okay? And the reason for that is cats are 12 times stronger than us per pound. And if you doubt that, go out on the street and try to pick up a feral domestic that wants nothing to do with you. When you get back from the doctor, you realize you messed up, okay? They are not to be fooled with. Many celebrities have embraced the domestic cat. So here is just an array of them that go along. So that's what Big Cat Rescue is all about. We're trying to save these animals. We're trying to keep them in the wild to do what they've been doing for 35 million years. And if you're looking for a really interesting event to attend, come take a tour at Big Cat. I have some flyers in the back. You're welcome to take them. And I really appreciate your time and this opportunity. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Yes?
What got you interested in wanting to know more about the history of cats?
I covered that at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, they've been around for 35 million years. Their mission is to be a predator carnivore, to cull the disease, the vermin, and the overpopulated. And they do a real good job. And they have characteristics, as I explained, that allow them to do that. They are just amazing. They can run, your domestic cat can run 30 miles an hour, not for a long time. So they have a lot of amazing attributes that have kept them around. And today they're the world's most wonderful pet, and in the case of Big Cat Rescue, we found that for most of the people who have these animals, they do it for self-esteem purposes, okay? I move into your neighborhood, I've got a 400-pound tiger in the backyard. Doesn't that make me cool? And that's the way they think. And consequently, what we do is we insist when somebody gives us a cat that they sign a contract saying they won't get another one. Because what people will do is they want to get a cub. The cub grows up, let's get rid of the bigger cat and go out and get another cub because it's cool, because they're the most popular person on the block. It's crazy. And we're not asking for anything unusual. If you've ever been to Europe, you know the only place you see these animals is in a book or a zoo. They learned a long time ago. Might have something to do with the Christians and the lions. I have no idea. So anyway, this is an interesting slide. This fellow was in the Korean War. And he adopted 2 little kittens. And when he came back to the United States, his company adopted the 2 little kittens. And finally, one of the other fellows came back and brought the 2 kittens back to the United States, and they lived happily ever after. How about that? Right in the midst of the war. And guess what the first cat's name was? You ready? Mishap. Think about that. So, anyway, that's what it's all about. Thank you for your attention. It's a pleasure to see you.
I'll sneak over and use this mic.
Okay.
Thank you, Denny, so much for all your knowledge about big cats and all the work that you've done here with Big Cat Rescue. We need more people like you, that's for sure. So, Marcus, would you present him his awards and gifts, please?
Well, thank you. Isn't that sweet? Lovely.
Good work. Thank you, sir. Just before we break for lunch, I would like to ask Bill and Kathy Connolly to come on up. They have something very special. It's not necessarily going to be a giveaway, but it's going to be a contest. And they're going to describe the contest and let you know what you'll be winning if you win the contest. Thank you, Bill and Kathy.
Good afternoon. The contest is about acoustic guitars I pick up at yard sales or flea markets or whatever. And I put them together with extra strings. And they're for students who want to learn how to play guitar. And so we have a contest if they could draw or make a cardboard guitar or write an essay about a guitar and how bad they want to play. We're willing to give you one, and we're going to have a contest in January, right? This song we're going to play for you is called Butterfly in Flight, and we wrote this about 4 years ago. We thought it'd be appropriate for International Chrysalis, since chrysalis has to do with butterflies. Hope I can just find my pick.
You need me to get you one?
No, got it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all for having us today. I am a butterfly in flight. No more cocoon for me tonight. I was there, you're really here. No more darkness or night. You are my shining light. Now my life is burning bright. I felt your touch in the night. You came down shining bright. You are the light that saved my life. Heaven sent with love. You came to me from above. I welcomed you because you're true. Now my life is brand new. A butterfly, first in flight, spreading my wings tonight. You are the light that saved my life. Heaven sent with love. You came to me from above.
You are the light, you are the light. You are the light, you are the light.
Jesus, you saved
You
my
are
life.
the light, you are the light
that
saved my life.
That's taken from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. For I am a new creation in Christ Jesus. He changed my life.
Amen. And I guess it's lunchtime, right, Joan? Thank you.
Enjoy your lunch.